Boom, Sky High Podcast.
What up, what up, what up? Yeah.
Crescendo Brown here, everybody.
What's good, guys?
Ryan the Ruvak here, sessioning out. We are talking about, what were you talking about now?
You were asking me what I was listening to and paying attention to.
Yeah, you were just getting into Incel Red Pill.
Oh, yeah, no, what I was saying was like I'm trying to reset my YouTube algorithm because as of late it's just been giving me the same stuff over and over again, and sometimes we go down a pattern of listening to certain things, and that directs what we believe. When we keep going to the same media source, the same whatever, then we start to take what that has to be as truth. And some media, depending on how you are, will either lift you up or bring you down. And so I've been listening to some things, and there's a part where I'm just like, I don't necessarily want to believe everything anymore of what they have to say. Now, some of it I do think is true, but I do think that in this weird, vast world, in galaxy, that how are these things to be true? And, because we always talk about this. I always joke around saying, like, is what we are doing, is it nature or nurture on how men and women act, right? Is this just in their nature, or is it in their nurture in America or whatever, right? And how is it that in America, in the world for the most part, but mainly America because that I know of, we're moving towards, fluid gender, right? We're moving towards fluid identity, which is whatever, right? But the moment a man's not what they consider masculine, then you're useless. We can accept everyone, right? But a sensitive man that might cry or whatever, or have emotions, is like, get your shit together. That I can go for everything, but I can't go for that.
I can't go for that.
No, right? I mean, maybe I'll get your input on it, but I just like, I'm not saying to, if anyone's listening, to sit there and say, be a sensitive man or whatever, just be you. But the problem is sometimes what happens is if who you are isn't good, the world's trying to tell you to change. And then you're like, well, in this infinite galaxy of possibilities, why can't you just be you? Now, I'm saying this also to say that hopefully you get to the point wherever who is listening to this, that you get to a point where you're just confident in you and don't give a fuck, to what people have to say. But as I take a step back and I'm seeing how you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to do this, but not do this, it's like, fuck, is it really that complicated for you to just live? Like, growing up, did you know that life was a game? That there had to be games to everything?
I think you hit the head on the bone when you're talking about changing your algorithm, right? Which that's already a conversation in itself, because that's something I think is important, the way you framed it. It's like you're trying to change the shit you're watching to help alter your brain to think in a different way.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, with your question of like, did you know that earlier? I think depends on what I was watching. I think there had either been some TV. I mean, I was watching TV nonstop and watching, I'm on some kind of screen all the time anyways. So I think through either music or TV references, the game was always like a reference. Now, I don't know if that helps with how people view life. I think what I'm thinking is the internet makes it strange because there was a time where maybe we all kind of thought similar things, or we were all kind of, man, do you watch TGI Friday yesterday?
Yeah, or Martin was the one that we go to a bus stop and be like, yo, what's good?
It
Martin,
felt like everybody was watching it, at least the way that we were consuming media at the time. Life seemed a little smaller, where now it's a little more fractured. There's a lot more, different opinions out there, which in a lot of ways is great because you realize like, oh, well, everybody just has an opinion. And it kind of makes the reality of before very, flimsy. So, I mean, I think it's constant because like we talked about before, it's like, it's always weird. It's never good and great. And it's only great in reflection, You're like, oh, this time was the best. But when you're in it, you're like, oh, it's all icky. It's stuck. It's weird. I don't know what to think. And I think it's constant. I think if you're on the male and female part, when it comes to nature, nurture, in that regard of what I'm talking about, I think there's something innate in us that is instinctual, meaning like we have a specific way of, like doing things as a guy. that is almost like you can't not do that as a guy. But in the world right now, it's kind of everything around us in messaging and whatever this has been the last, I don't know, maybe you can make an argument 20, 30 years based on the introduction of TV per se, or magazines, radios, and just how they've slowly transitioned the way either you think about men or how everybody thinks about men, and they try to play it off and play it out, and
I mean, it's funny you say, because I'm cutting you off, but
no, you're good.
When I thought about that, at least at that section, right, in our lifetime, right, there was and we're seeing in our lifetime, we grew up where we had the Al Bundy, right, and it was being a man, and then somewhere in our teens, it was to stop being a man, right, to be whatever, right, and to act a certain way and not be so aggressive, or now they call it toxic, right? But now we're seeing too that the shift is kind of going back to being like, no, be a man, because there are also at least it's seeming a lot of unhappy women because men are not quote unquote stepping it up, which I don't think it's just men personally. If there's a problem with relationships in America, it's both sides. It can't just be one. It can't just say that men are not doing that. That means that women are not also accepting things, but also not being realistic on the other end. But there's a lot of people that saying that men are not being a certain way, so it's taking away all the things that some of us have prescribed to, like, fighting for women, and then realizing in many cases these same women are not fighting for us. Watching those women who are strong girls that played soccer or whatever they did growing up have their own kids, and then or young boys, and trying to turn them into exact men they wouldn't even date or let other women date, try to protect them,
Oh, that is strange.
Right?
That is strange.
So but then we're seeing the change, because then, then there's this vacuum of masculinity in there, that has some of us, maybe we learn not through our parents, which is sometimes the bad side of public education, is that we sometimes learn whatever is acceptable by society and not the household, right? Have changed that, So when you said that, I was like, hey, in our life we've seen the Al Bundy, I can't even think of the Zach Morrises, who was pimping on, to like, hey, be the friend zone,
But they just kind of took away with like relationships on TV and just kind of made it ambiguous, and then kind of switched the power role a little bit in certain areas, and then all of a sudden to the point where it's like every guy on TV is, a clumsy guy, or a corny guy, or a stupid guy, and then that's it.
Homer Simpson's, Homer Simpson's, or what's the other guy? Peter Griffin, right?
Yeah,
like
clueless, don't know anything. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh damn, that is. But it's built in, because as a youth, you're consuming it. You don't know what you're watching. You're just kind of watching. And, and they always tell you it's just entertainment. It's just TV. And I'm like, okay, cool. As we do that for 20 years, then we're like over here like, what is wrong with our behaviors? And it's like, well, is there something really wrong? Or what are we actually really thinking? And I think that's why stuff like this is trying to, really throw out some, just some interesting thoughts. Like, yo, is this what people are really thinking about? Or is just this, my algorithms are fucked up? And that's a thing to say now.
I mean, even in commercials, I don't know if you see it or not. You ever notice in certain commercials when it's a man versus a woman, and usually the woman beats the guy?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'm more cunning. I outlast you. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I did this. And it's just like, and the guy has to be like, you got me this time. Ha ha ha.
I mean,
and it's like,
yeah.
Is there, I mean, I'm not sitting there saying that a woman can't beat a guy. I'm just saying,
that is what you're saying, man.
A commercial where the dude is just like, all right, I just dominated you in basketball.
No, because we all know that already.
But that's the thing, right? But that's that training is like, oh, it's like, oh, and there's a lot of people that say, because I think one of the topics about Wakanda Forever later on is like, there's even a lot of things saying that in certain roles is like, now they're just diminishing the men in the back role on certain things, and it's like, the lady can be strong, which I'm all like, really, I don't care if someone is strong or not, right? It's not about that. It's about like, if you want equality, then show the equalness in it and not just one side to it, right? Like,
are you talking women?
I'm just talking about on both sides, right? Like, if you're talking about equality, right, then how come two can't exist at the same time? It's usually one that has to be higher than the other.
I mean, The king and queen system, man. That's how it works.
Right. Right.
What is equal? That's the tough part. I mean, equality, equal, that word has been synonymous the last, handful of years, especially during these presidential runs. And, you would think that even though when we were growing up, racial tension always displayed itself on TV.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's always the case. But nowadays, as we're older, I think the way that it's consumed, it's everywhere. And I say this in the major sports, major things that that there's a viewership happening. You're like, oh damn, this race thing is what's going on here, and it's a big discussion. I mean, obviously,
yeah. No, I'm so glad you brought that up because when I thought about that, right, LeBron brought up about Jerry Jones, right, and I'm kind of conflicted on how I feel because I'm like, dude was 14 years old. I said stuff at 14 that are no longer proper now. I'm not a billionaire yet. I don't know, maybe. Should he have to go back that many years to say he's sorry when he's, in my opinion, has made a bunch of black players millionaires? Has paid Dak Prescott when he was injured?
That's true.
I don't know. And then some people say he doesn't have a black coach. I mean, maybe he doesn't. Maybe there's certain things that I don't know if that even matters. But all I'm saying is he made a bunch of black players and millionaires. Granted, that could be anywhere, right? And that's a part of the owner and the team. But I'm just saying, like, I don't see that in year 14, and you don't really know what's going on or what you have done or whatever. I don't know if he should apologize. Maybe just say, at the time it was whatever, and now that I don't see it's right, fine. But I just the uprise of it at someone at such a young age at that time, now as an owner, you act like as though, like I've stated before many times, like, should I apologize for shitting my drawers when I was 2 years old? Wearing diapers.
I don't know why that was brought up. It was a strange kind of diversion there.
And in whatever, I there's parts where I'm saying I get it too, right? Like, some could say that Kyrie didn't really even do anything. He just said a book. And then now he had to apologize and say it was anti-Semitic. Right?
Yeah, it is strange.
And it was like, okay, and then what the book led to. So, and then, and at the same time, in fairness of LeBron at the time, he brought up, was like, well, you guys asked me about Kyrie, but none of you guys asked about other things. I get it, though. I played with Kyrie, and it's like, that's not my issue. I should be talking about the Lakers.
Yeah, that's also true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I should be talking about the Lakers, but you want to bring that into me because I used to play with this guy. It's not on my team right now. I'm not bringing it up. You're bringing it to me. And now he brings up a contradictory thing, or a situation at the same time that doesn't have to deal with the NBA.
That is strange.
Right? This is not to deal with the stuff that's with, like, maybe talk, if that happened, talk about it. And if an NBA owner did that, then bring that up. It's not even NBA, it's a whole different league. There's parts of me where I'm like, shut the fuck up about other leagues. They have to handle their shit their way.
I know that it was quite strange.
Granted, I still rock with LeBron. I'm not against. I'm just like, I don't like that argument in general when it was brought up from me, because it's just like, that literally means you had to be like, hey, if there's any kids listening right now, I just want to let you know, you got to be the stress right now. You got to be perfect right now. You're 9 years old. You look at a dirty movie, you're gonna go to prison by the time you're 30 for looking at that movie. You download a game, or you hack something or stole MP3s, you're going to prison because you cannot mess up anymore.
That is strange. I mean, is that where it's at? That's really, if not, are we headed that way?
I mean, I'm saying the
know this. You're a tech guy.
I don't know.
Tell us already, bro. Are you a clone? Are you a robot?
No, my kidney's a clone.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that. We just gotta, like, I mean, even in the words of Christianity, you just gotta forgive people, right? Right? Like, you have to forgive. Like, when is there gonna be forgiveness to be like, okay? My issue always has been, it's not if someone did it, it's the consistency of did they do it, and did they ever fix it? You can mess up and you say you're sorry, but if you continue to do it, then that's a habit.
I mean, at that stage of people's career, to be on that level, where professional athletes are, and kind of, they're not living what the common folk. That's what we're watching on TV to this level. If you just factor in the amount of money they make, I would consider, like, the Kardashian family is like the American royal family. It's like that. Like Kanye, all these people. These are like billionaires, like millionaires. I'm like, how is this? How do we interpret their sayings? Because I'm to believe, and you know how I say this. This is they're all in a production show, and they're all feeding each other this stuff, and it feels like to get us all riled up. Like, why are we getting riled up? Like, if you look at the way things played out, like you said, the Kyrie thing, there's little details that if you just listen to it and you look at it, you're like, that is strange. I don't know why that would happen.
And granted too is like some people forget all the things that Kyrie has done for people, all the charity stuff that he's given, you know, and it's just because he brings up one thing, you know.
Yeah.
And granted, at the same time, it's off the heels of what Kanye did, so there's a subconscious connection. Could be direct, could be indirect. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it was off the heels of Kanye saying, I think something about DEFCON 5 on the shoes, you know, which is like, yeah. I was like,
Kanye's been on a run. He's been on a run.
He's man. He might be doing a three-peat pretty soon somewhere here, like a Bulls championship run right now.
I mean, but is he? Someone mentioned this. I was talking about this briefly. It was like. Someone said, is he even relevant?
Was Kanye even relevant?
Like a younger person said that in conversation. I was like,
oh, if that person, you know, it's funny. Now I got my little, you know, old school hat on it. Is Kanye relevant? I mean, yeah. I mean, if y'all wearing Yeezys.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Good point.
Like, he's probably, I used to argue that he's more influential than Jay-Z.
I kind of agree with you.
You know, and you say that, but you're still listening and you understand, you know who he is. Mm-hmm. Is he relevant? Mm-hmm. Sure. You probably don't realize how many of your favorite artists were fans of Yeezy. So that's a point. That's irrelevant, you know?
Yeah, that's very true.
Maybe not so much as a rapper anymore, but like the other things he has touched in music and the fashion and
yeah.
You know, so but as far as music, maybe not so much. You know, I don't know. I really don't listen to the newer stuff because it really just sounds like people talking over a beat with a rhythm.
I mean, it's the new music right now,
right?
You know,
but
it's just their version.
It's their time. It's okay.
Time.
I don't have to understand.
No,
you know, I just don't need to sit here and hate them for it. You know, it's like I don't understand it. Okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah. See, so that's why when he said that, I was like, oh, I don't know, because he's done this before, right? You know, he has track record of, you know, saying outlandish things. Or not outlandish. It's just he has an opportunity and then he says his thing. Now, if it's media that's kind of corralling it as fodder and putting it out there and framing him as a guy who is, you know, of mental instability or whatever they want to call him. And I'm like, yo, I mean, he lives in a different stratosphere. Like, I don't know what he does on a day to day. Like, he lives a crazy existence based on.
Did you ever watch Genius?
No, I did not.
Okay, all right.
I did not. But I mean, you know, I followed his career loosely and seeing what he's, you know, about the things that he's been talking about more recently in the last 5-10 years. I'm like, looking just as a person on the outside, like following all that, you're like, that fool's been through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So whatever he's saying now, I mean, obviously he's entitled to his opinion, however far extreme it is, and it brings, you know, always this big notion of what's happening in today's world is the whole free speech thing.
Yeah.
You know, with tech and kind of, you know, paralleling your point of, will you be persecuted for something you say? And I was like, depends on who's going to be running shit, you know, 10 years down the road.
It's funny, right? Because, you know, there's free speech, right? And that's where one of the main reasons why Elon picked up Twitter. Oh. And then, you know, the swastika thing that happens with EA, right? And then he's no longer on Twitter. His account's suspended. Isn't that kind of awkward?
It is.
Right after
free speech.
Right okay, after Elon Musk buys Twitter, they say that the N-word jumped up 500%, right? Yeah. Now, granted, it's trolls.
Of course.
There's no blocking of that. Now, Kanye does something, and I'm not agreeing to it. I'm just saying it's funny that Elon bought that for free speech and now is blocking someone because he can't stand that. Well, wait, time out. I'm just playing the advocate on this. So when the other owners did that, you were mad. I'm not saying that was right either. You were mad about that, but now you're doing that. So the point is, in some ways, in a weird way, that not everything should be filtered or should be put on there. It should be kind of filtered. And I sound weird to say this. I'm okay with parts of that. You shouldn't filter everything, but if it filters some type of hate, then we don't need that. But if it's hey, now granted, hate can be anything. You could say I don't believe in this or whatever.
Hate.
I hate, right? I think sometimes we got to be a little bit more reasonable about stuff, right? But I'm just saying that I don't think everything needs to be said or be put on there. Personally, I'm not, just because you can have freedom of speech doesn't hold you back from your consequences of what you say.
True.
And also at the same time, what I said at the beginning is how often do you say these things?
True.
How often do you act upon these things?
Yeah, it is strange. The behavior displayed online in commenting this is almost like the dark internet got loose.
Yeah.
And then they're just trying to corral like the wildness of it. Because ultimately, this is the darkness that lives inside of us.
Yeah, of course.
And under anonymous, sources at the moment or ways people can express themselves without being detected. But to your point earlier, but also we know what you said.
Yeah.
So what are we doing here? Are we still trying to keep the veil of, the internet over our eyes, or is it a job of trying to clean it up so it doesn't go further?
Well, and granted, we've had statements before that they're just words, right? And I'm like, well, I've also stated that I felt like words can cause war, right? Mm-hmm. What you say to someone, be like, oh, okay, you're going down. It could, should the person be strong enough to handle words? Yes, but that's in a perfect world. What you say to me shouldn't, if I'm secure in myself, shouldn't affect me. But I feel like after a while, there's going to be a crack in your armor. And I'm just saying that in general. So words, you have to be careful what you say. They are words, but they can lift, or I think we can bring someone down. Greatest example is the Bible. People who can use that for positivity. Someone can use it to enslave millions of black people in America, but it is crazy to see the filter, because I also say, have you ever played any online shooter games?
Yeah, for real.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What are the words? What are they saying all the time up in there?
Yeah.
Because people think they're anonymous, right? They're like, yo, I could just say
whatever the fuck I want.
And it's kind of jacked up ish,
I think so. I agree with you. I mean, I'm of the thinking you should be able to say what you want, and also to say the shit that's really dark, just keep it to yourself, as we used to before. Mm-hmm. There's freedom, go into the forest and yell your shit, or go camping or go boating and just be in the middle of the ocean, say whatever you need to say, or do work out or play basketball all day, or make music to counterbalance that. I think what the internet was just like a little peek.
We literally just talked about all the things I did. I was in the Navy.
Oh yeah,
I used to go hiking. Damn, you're trying to say I blur out a bunch of racist stuff, huh?
But no, but that's the whole. But that is the whole point, though, right? You're kind of everybody has the dark passenger, as they say.
Everybody has their.
Yeah. But why does the internet bring out the people that want to say something? Because I agree, it's a strange thing. But imagine having to navigate, and then having to check in, and then you're monitored. And it's this is where I wrestle with if this is a good or bad idea or if it's already happening. Transparency and just having a digital imprint and everything logged, whether it's...
Well, I mean, it already is, but...
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's
just,
what is this going to do in the future in ways of, shifting cultural behaviors?
Well, I mean, the sometimes the good part about things with video and cameras is that it should keep people honest, right? And then sometimes the bad parts, it exposes things that shouldn't be out there yet. Should we know special force tactics that are being ran right now to protect our country? Should those things be leaked?
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah. I want to see it.
You want to see it, right?
Yeah.
And then causes more damage. But I don't know. I mean,
that's like me watching, when they do NFL breakdowns.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
You're
that's cool.
Yeah,
because what's crazier is they'll use the military. I was watching some, what's it called? The Valor movie. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
Great scene in there. But they used actual SEALs.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about it, I was like, so what, it's just a movie, but they use the actual people.
They're not going to show the real thing. But I will say, like, one of the things on the Navy was like loose lips sink ships, right? So if everything's clear and whatever, your shit, someone who's nefarious will sink your ship.
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes it's like it's good because you want to keep people honest, but then it's not good because then you keep things like that are not supposed to be exposed. At a certain time. At the same time too, there's a part where I'm like even with like kids right now, I'm like, I feel like laws should change right now with kids because they have access to their phones, right? And they're knowing a little bit more because of the access to the phone than I think the laws and sometimes their parents are even trying to not accept. I feel like they're trying to overlook it, right? They're not trying to accept it. They're not trying to accept that their kids know a little bit more than they do. Meaning that like movies, shows, certain words that are being said. Like we've joked around. We were in 8th grade, 7th grade. Internet, they didn't have filters on what we can see.
Hell no.
Right?
Wild West.
Wild West. But now that's on their phone at all times.
It's all times.
Yeah. They know what's going on. To an extent, like they don't know the bigger picture of the world, but they know.
But I mean,
social media
part, it's
right?
out of the jar now.
Yeah, they're seeing. So it's like, well, I've got to cut and change because like there's parts of me now where it's like you can't, a teacher can't cuss at a kid, but they can listen to Drake.
Yeah,
they can listen to Lil Uzi Vert or Amigos, right? Or Migos, sorry. But yeah, the teacher can't say, "Yo, get your shit together."
Nope.
Hate.
They
can watch. They go on Netflix and watch whatever. But a teacher doesn't have the ability to check them or put them in place. You know what I'm saying? With words.
Well, because also to your talking point earlier, I think public school systems are different than they were, 70 years ago or something, when it was just, the township and it was just people from the community and they would teach in a small little schoolhouse on the, in the farmland. Now it's institutionalized. Everybody pays in. It's, broadened and it's handed down through multiple layers of people. And it's some weird process of whatever you want to see it as, like, preparing you for, your education in this world, in this culture. But as we've finally gone through the gauntlet and we're over here reflecting back and looking at it, we're like, I don't know what that is. Clearly, I don't know. A lot of people take different things from public schooling. I've talked to people who went to private. It feels different, but it's kind of the same. Like,
Well, I mean, I think we had the discussion because, like, some people, I laugh sometimes when I hate, like, I'm not against public school. You do whatever you want with your kids, right? I just think that some of my friends who went to public school and want to take their kids out of public school and only do private, I'm like, well, we were successful out of public school. There are certain things that you like. There are certain parts I think in public school are solid where you have to deal with. Will depend on the neighborhood. I have to be fair. But for the most part, you're dealing with all types of people, not just a particular set of people.
True.
Because private school, you usually have to have a little bit more money to get there. Or if you're one of the lucky few kids that get bused there with a scholarship, But for the most part, you're dealing with a very particular set of people. But even that being said, in a grander scheme, even if you're going to a high school in Elk Grove, you're only dealing with those Elk Grovian people. But it's just a larger group of people from different areas,
Yeah.
But, it's just, you could be really, if it comes to success and stuff after that, that really determines on the individual what they want in life. You know what I'm saying? Like that really, and not only is the individual, but it does, in my opinion, I have to look up the facts, it has to do with the individual and their drive and their support system. Are the parents there supporting them? And then that gets in that tricky thing because then, like in the 5 love language book, is like, are you supporting them the way they need to be supported in order for them to grow? Everybody knows that there's, I don't know, I'm getting kind of deep on this and silly,
all good.
But there's plants, right? Okay, well, you need soil and water, right? But not every plant will thrive with the same amount of water and the same amount of soil. And that's the same thing as humans, right? It was like, okay, this plant will thrive with less water and drier soil. This one needs enriched soil, less water, things like that. Well, and that's how I feel like that's with humans and kids in general, And as a parent, it's the greatest social experiment.
It is. That's why
I just rambled the hell out. Huh?
No, I mean, but that is something that is I definitely would think about, because it's like, yeah, how does, in terms of the household, and then in terms of what public education brings in when it's introduced at those age ranges, and there's a lot of great and good and functionality that comes with public schooling for a lot of reasons. I mean, we've been a part of this system ever since I could remember, at least the public school system. And then, yeah, we'll break. We can take a break right now. Yeah, you're good.
Keep talking. I'm listening. I just gotta take my medicine.
No, we'll break.
Public school.
And we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
What was it?
We were talking about like public schools and how it works and whatnot, and how it works for you.
Oh, plants.
Yeah, plants. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can't do a systematic blanket. Here's the baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Tell these people how to do it. I think it's already happening. Public schooling is changing, but I don't think we're actually ever going to witness like an overnight change.
Mm-hmm.
It's gradually changing. I mean, depending on who keeps up and how you keep up, but yeah, I mean, all things that we just mentioned, I feel like this is what's supposed to happen. It just feels like it. Like we were holding on to a version of the world, and now we're kind of moving into new eras. And I think this is what it's supposed to be. Like, you remember when we went from analog to digital for public?
Yeah.
Like, that didn't affect us, because we're like, oh, fucking, we live digital anyways.
Yeah.
But the people that were analog, that were 40, 50, 60 years old at that time, were like, what?
Yeah.
But we never heard that opinion. That was not really covered like that. I think what we're doing now is just, at least the way I see it, this is supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. That's why it's gross. It feels strange. The technology is here to stay. We have been consuming information and news this way for quite a long time. Mm. The messaging has been clear. Fake news this, and the whole notion of just find out for yourself.
Yeah.
Read information and come up with an opinion. And then the lack of people speaking to each other, but then also the bump in podcasts out there.
Yeah.
And even though there's a lot, they're probably not enough. I think everybody should probably be doing this.
That's weird, because there could be an amount where like now you have to cipher through what is real and what's not, And now granted, everybody can have a voice, but it's like, what is the factual? Trying to figure that out, Because as you said that, one of the things I thought about was like, do you take numbers as facts?
Loosely. I try to cooperate that with like certain things. I try to, talk to people in my social sphere and bring that out and see if it got to them, and then see if that's a better barometer. Because usually those numbers, more or less mirror, like viewership of this video is this. I'm like, okay, factor that in. Okay, worldwide, this, and then okay, only this percentage of people watch it. So, and then it doesn't seem that big of a deal in the way that I use the numbers, because I've come to the understanding like a lot of this can definitely be inflated. But it does play into effect of when I'm trying to search unbiased or different information. Lesser numbers make me somewhat feel comfortable, because it feels like it's someone just saying something.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it feels a little more authentic, where something that's like, 100 million, that was probably like produced, probably 45 people help write it. And
all of a sudden. Okay, I mean, so you're saying on that end, because like...
In terms of numbers, like you talking about numbers like viewpoints or views, or are you talking about like statistics?
Oh, no, I mean like statistics. Sorry.
Oh, same.
Viewpoints like... So, and it's funny because like, as I said that, my natural ideology is to attack the numbers, right? Mm. Because I guess I just swim up the opposite side of the stream. I go against it or whatever. I try to go the different direction instead of always going what people say. But in fairness, I will say that the numbers are true for that particular size and time. Mm. Let's just put it that way, because and that's me trying to actually accept the numbers, because as you see with sometimes numbers, what happens is you can either go up based off of the popularity of something, or it can go the opposite way as you allow more things to come through. Right? Like they say, you know, a woman makes 79 cents to a dollar, right? Well, now you brought that up. Now there might be a fight to making it more, and now they're at 82 cents to a dollar, right? So the number was true for that time being. Or you're saying that, you know, this many people do that, or this is how people act. This, which kind of comes back to the nature or whatever, right? Certain things in nature, nurture in nature, can be one way during a particular time, but as we allow other things to happen, that it changes. You know, more girls play basketball, less. Literally in that, well, somewhere I went to, right? They're saying that there are more Australian kids playing basketball now. It's the higher growing sport. Less parents want to do physical contact sports because of CTE. So now that number changes and that style changes, right? So, or sometimes I think knowing the numbers changes things, right? So what I mean by that is like, okay, they say, this is out my butt, but I used to read something about how like black people are more likely to commit crime, right? Impoverished, right? Well, if you're just say you're a statistical cop and you're looking at that, does that not subconsciously change the way you look at a criminal? You're going to be like, well, statistically this happens. Sure. So could that inadvertently affect the numbers? Mean like, oh, you keep it true because you know it was true, so you hold it true. Yeah. You know? So I just like, so I have to, in fairness, I have to say that numbers are true for that slice of time. Obviously it can change. You know? Yeah.
The way that they use like numbers in, you know, kind of in parallel with a storyline, and then helps drive that, you know, and that's what sucks about how information's getting out, because how much of it is, you know, journalistic, kind of like, oh, I'm just telling you what's going on. Yeah. I don't have a fight in the game. This is literally, I'm here. Look, this is happening. Yeah. Just to let you guys know.
but it also, you know, the crazy thing is it doesn't paint the overall picture, right?
That's true.
Because like this morning, for some reason, I was just looking up average life expectancy. Okay. Right, and they said the average life expectancy had dropped from 2020 to 2021, and then people were like, if you're outside looking, I was like, oh, average life expectancy is dropping. Well, what happened during that time? COVID. People died. Older people died. That affects the number, right? So that means that some older people who probably could have lived a little bit longer died younger. So it lowers the life expectancy. Some people who were younger, who had underlying health issues that they didn't know, it changes that. What I'm saying is that, like, you see that and you're like, oh, snap. Life expectancy is dropping. Then you're thinking it could be some people who are health nuts be like, see, this is why you can't be eating red meat, you know, and you can have the vegans saying whatever. Yeah. And then there could be actual vegans that died from COVID because they had other things. But I'm just saying, like, you know, until you say the whole picture, it's like, okay, life expectancy drop. These are the things that happen during the times that could have affected it. It's just saying that, right? Look at this. We had COVID. Then you had people having shut down. You know, suicide probably went up. Drinking went up. Did you know the drinking went up during COVID?
I am aware of this.
Right? Drinking come up. So that could be drinking that's unhealthy for
unreported things.
Right? Yeah. Like they were talking about spousal abuse and
makes sense. A lot of divorces happening.
Education, like kids were, a lot of divorces happening, right?
Education slowed down.
Yeah, or a new number when we talk about divorces, right? A new number has been coming out that women file for divorce 70% of the time.
Oh, there you go. See?
Right, and what happened there? Oh, wait. So more options, more availability to get education. The higher the education a woman gets, the higher the divorce rate is. Oh, or applying for a divorce, right? It's like okay. So it's like And you know, not saying that we don't, but this comes with equality in a weird way, right? Like, you know, pushing. I'm just saying these are the things that changes with numbers and facts during the time because they shift. You know,
they do shift. They shift quickly, and it feels like a psychological operation because it's like it drops, and does it drop with a knowing of what's gonna be the repercussions? Because it feels like this has been slowly, you know, patterned out, unless this is just the energy of the world and somehow this is the messaging that is warranted or wanted at the time. I have no clue. Then that goes to a deeper, what you truly believe the world to be. That's the only way you could cope, because after that, you're kind of like...
And sometimes the world is what is given to you, or what is the new norm at the time.
Yeah.
Another thing that I had looked up the other day was the average height in America had grown about an inch over like 50 years or something like that, right? Okay. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, how did that happen? What, usually if you're just saying it's like, how could that happen? Well, then as certain things happen with also technology access, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to see more access to what you think is attractive and the new norm of what attractive is, right? And now there are literally people that don't even know what the average height is in America, if it's to be true. Right?
Yeah.
Because I know how you feel about that. But
of course,
like, ask one person's like, that she had brought up, I was talking about dating, and I had said something about my height, and she said, you in height. And I said, you in height. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, you date nothing but tall men. She's like, it's not my fault, I want to see how you think about it. It's not my fault that only tall guys talk to me. And I'm thinking like, okay, have you ever dated anybody of average height? She said, yeah, I have. 5'10", 5'11". B, you don't even know what the average height is in America. Average height of America, right, as of right now, is 5'9" for a male, 5'4" for a female, right? So I said that, right? And I also laughed because I'm like, well, her selection is tall guys, right? She doesn't even know what the average height is. And then she tries to sit there and say, it's not my fault that shorter men don't like her. When she's the one selecting. So this is a subconscious trait of dating certain people,
Of the woman, subconscious.
Of the woman,
How tall is she?
5'4". She's of average height.
Oh, well then, my opinion is whoever got to her first was a tall person. And that's all she used to.
Yeah, right.
That's really what it is. I mean, because like you said, it's not my fault. I was like, the way I think about it, it's never a woman's fault, ever. It really isn't, because I think that's...
Oh, you really feel that way?
Like
or,
I really...
Or are you just using it as
because I don't think that they, they're not paying attention like that. All they're doing is just rolling with the punches. That's how I think about it. The way I see it, or the way it's been told, or the way whatever... They're not cerebral like that, so that's why when even if she meant that or not, it's like, it's not your fault. You don't know what you're doing.
That's fuck that, dude. I'm sorry. I don't get down with
I mean, don't get me wrong. There probably are women out there that are like that. I just think it's a lot of work for a female to have to go through all that. Because like you said, they have it easy. They pick.
Let me ask you. So anything that I've felt or did or feeling and didn't fix is not my fault.
For females or males?
No, for males.
I mean, even if you feel like it's not your fault, it's always going to be your fault.
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is like, I'm depressed about the height, blah, blah. You need to get over it. What do we say offside, right? Like, there's no place for a man. Like, oh, you just need to get over it. You're a man. Yeah. And if I say it's not my fault, it's like, hey, grow your pair of nuts.
And that's what sucks, because the end of the line is us. We are the end of the line. So this is what's strange, to your point earlier, is because it's like, okay, if we're the end of the line, we're treated like we're like nothing, or they're trying to perceive it as men ain't shit. Whether it's on TV, movies, whatever you want to, it's just the whole entire narrative that is being pushed out there is like that. That's why there's that, you said, big pushback with dudes getting out there reclaiming their manhood, or being a man, whatever it is. I think that's only out there because that's the game of media, but in reality, the way it's always displayed in my head is like, we're always at fault, and it ain't equal. That's why I don't believe in equality, just because there's not an example of it. And that's why I just take the most basic man and woman argument in the idea of relationships, because it's always back and forth. So and it's just hard to be equal, man.
I agree with you, but the angry part of me fights the part saying that they say, oh, it's not my fault. Whereas like, take accountability like I should.
But what are they going to say?
But what I'm saying, but no, that's what I'm saying. The angry part about me is like, no, fucking take accountability, right? But the reality is like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Even if they did admit to it, it would give you satisfaction.
You lose.
Yeah. It's like, God damn it.
You will lose.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's like we end up with the L. So then the mindset changes to, well then, you know what? I'm just going to be on my own thing, and I'm going to view this. I has to be like this, just for my sanity, because there's no way I could think that you are ultimately, in charge of doing that. you know, like, oh, you are in the main selection. You get to select.
You take it as in like that's just you accept it because that's how you can move forward instead of worrying about it.
Yeah, instead of like toiling over
I'm
it.
gonna have to dap you up on that one because honestly,
that's all I think.
To be honest with you, I do believe that. I mean, like, it's better just to accept what shit is, and it sucks, so you can move forward.
Yeah.
Now, for those that can withstand the fight, thank you.
Oh yeah,
that fight the good fight.
Yeah,
for most people, you keep fighting it, it's going to be depressing. It's going to be sad. You're just going in a circle.
Yeah,
you may not have the proper chops to write why it should change. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just like write it down and eloquently put it out there. But like for the most part, the faster you accept it, the better you can deal with it.
Yeah.
Let someone else who's stronger deal with it and pave the way.
Mm-hmm. But even whatever we consider strong, I mean, I hear relationship stuff off and on. Like some of the podcasts I listen to have sections where they just talk about, relationships in the funniest way too. It's hilarious. But you hear, and I don't know how real those people that call in or write in, but you hear some of the examples, you're kind of like, that's the only thing that goes through my head because a lot of the times that's kind of the final. That's not your fault.
But what you said though, what you said contradicts kind of what Kevin Samuel says though.
What does he say?
Because he usually argues back at the girl and says, "You don't even follow that." Like they try to fight against it. Let me take that back. They don't accept the reality of stuff. They try to fight it.
Yes.
So I guess it kind of goes in line. But he usually is trying to tell them like, "You won't even go against the."
But that's why he only got popular when he started talking to women.
Yeah, that's very true. Because when you're talking to men, it was like
you see that as entertainment. Because you're like, look at these, they don't listen.
Yeah, and 90% of stuff is you go online. You're just gonna. I mean, in my opinion, 90% of the stuff is like dating to talk about how the man doesn't do anything right.
Well, that's a lot of it. Like when you have a lot of, it's always that, a woman writes a book like how to catch, hot women. Like, that's like the whole Patrice O'Neill thing. Like, a fish is going to write a book on how a fisherman how to catch them.
Like
you can't
how to catch a black person.
But First then they have it like, oh no, this is how you do it.
Give us quiche, some dried out turkey. Yeah, that's how you catch us.
I mean, it's why it's like it's been this thing the whole time. So that's why Kevin Samuels and all that, the Andrew Tates and whoever else is having these discussions about man-women relationships. There's always going to be that energy, back and forth. And that is what's captivating. I think that's why something like Kevin Samuels or Andrew Tate, it's because they're taking a stance that isn't new. It's just reintroducing it to a whole new generation again.
Well yeah, I had a friend that pointed out, which I depending if you believe in God and the Bible or church or whatever, but he said that the original sin for a man is a woman, and the original sin from a woman is to take the man's place. Mm-hmm. And that goes back from Adam and Eve, right? Mm-hmm. That a man, when open, or he can be deceptive by a woman that will eat the apple, right? Mm-hmm. While the woman's job is to always fight for the man's place, position.
Exactly.
Right. And when I heard that, I was just like, once again, I was like, actually, that one was like just a holy crap. That seems to be true. Maybe in America, maybe it was written. And it's crazy. If you believe or not, it's crazy how certain things are written so many years ago that seems to still hold true.
People have been fighting it forever. Right? The real war is man versus woman. Yeah, that it's the most interesting thing. That's why it's like
Civil War.
It's not new knowledge. It's to our point of like this knowledge has been lost, and it's not. And the way it's been perceived is wrong.
We're opening up the book. We're like, yes. So Book of Pimp of 1960. This is what a man said, right? And how it's like, how's this still true?
I mean, that's when you think about that era, right? It's like, what was dictating men's like mindsets at that time? What was the commercialization? And what were they showing? And you look at some of the movies. I mean, I see movies and TV shows where, like, I always talk about open-handed slaps on TV. Like, this is just what's happening. Like a Family Feud. That guy used to just kiss everybody on the lips.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what machismo, bravado, men just kind of that was their thing. Work on muscle cars, whatever. That's the era.
Work on their purpose. Right.
And then now it's, like I said, being reintroduced. And it's always what's that saying that's been going around that everybody's saying? Like, hard men and make, soft, whatever, or hard times make soft men, or hard man.
I thought it was hard times make a hard man.
There you go, something like that.
Yeah. Oh snap.
You know what I'm talking about. Oh shit, my bad.
No,
You're good. But yeah, that's why I was like, okay. So as this narrative is being out there, and we're talking about psychological operations, through media, this is supposed to happen. That's why I said there's going to be a pendulum swing. I don't know how far, but I'm just.
I think it's coming.
It's coming hard, right?
There's a lot of people that are like, I'm tired. I mean, there's a lot of men like, I'm tired of this. Like,
yes.
All right, cool. Go business. Go, because there's talks about like there's going to be a lot of single women, like a lot of single women in the 40s, because depending on what you listen to, and some people say don't lower your standards. It's like it's not about standards. It's having realistic expectations. There's a difference. You can say whatever, you can choose, and you can be unhappy forever because your standard, whatever you say it is not realistic to what your output is giving, But there's studies saying that women are way more picky now, and especially online though, which is different. But
I mean that is majority of how people communicate.
Yeah, but online a lot of times, and this goes back to what you're saying. Online a lot of times is a fantasy world, right? Online is almost like Vegas, right? Vegas is almost online.
You talking about when they giving you the tickets on the street with the people with the
you can like Vegas, what they call it, Sin City, right? So online you can go through any trip, any trouble, vice or whatever. You can almost look at it, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And so you go on there and you create your perfect world online, like a game, and you're like, well, online, my value is worth more. So I'm going to put this filter on this type of person or this type of man or woman that makes this amount, right? And I get it because, according to one study, they're saying that on certain dating apps, that there are 3 times more men than there are women on dating apps. So women have 3 more options for every one, or so a guy has 1/3 of the options. Like, oh snap, So they have more of a selection. They always had a selection. So we always listen to this. Kids, don't fool you. Women are always doing choosing, right? But so now they can just put in whatever they want. Well, there's a lot of men that are quitting dating because they're tired of putting up with it. And then on top of that, you can just go online, jerk off to your fantasy woman that you have online.
It is at a certain fork in the road between men and women right now. At least socially is the way the narrative plays. I can't really speak for certain if this is truly in the numbers because numbers are strange. But in terms of just, if you had to just, I always like to use the public schooling idea where what you're seeing in public school more or less is going to be ultimately the world you're living in, whether it's how your world breaks down, like through ethnicities or political views. It's all kind of displayed in a small microcosm in high school. So you're essentially kind of there. So when you do those numbers amongst those people, because you could really kind of, if you wanted to, look at your entire fucking graduating class and do a rundown of who's married and who's, if you want to go that deep, because that is a realistic statistic. And then from there, that'll probably reflect more of a reality, whether it's, something that's reported or basically you just off of, your own little circle. And you're like, okay, so clearly this is a trend. So then we have these conversations and then it is it always goes back to that, whatever the philosophy is. Because like you said, if there's going to be a whole bunch of single women coming to, pass pretty soon, what was it that they were following and what was the messaging and who was it coming from? Because if we weren't controlling the narrative as guys, or, if we weren't engaged or whatever was going on with, men, women at this time, what the fuck was going on?
Yeah, and in all fairness, it's not just on women, like even guys, right, sometimes may not understand where they really... Now, granted, I'm saying you have enough skill, you can get anybody on either side, right? But there are a lot of men that are having porn star fantasy type women that they think that they should be actually dating. You know what I'm saying? Which is not, it's not real. It's not real. Like it's not real. Not saying you can't. I'm just saying that you have if you're not a certain type of person that falls within line with their attractive, the majority of them, then it might be harder for you to get there, right? I'm not going to tell someone who plays basketball with your 5'8" that you won't get into the NBA. You can get there. It's just going to be a lot harder for you to get there. Just like if you're 6'4", right? And in 6'4", you're like, okay, that's a decent height. But then you're overweight and not fast or athletic. it's going to be harder for you. So it's not saying you can't. It's just saying that, hey, realistically, it's just going to be a lot harder. And if you know that, you have to work towards your strength to get there, you know?
True. I think with the pornographic material in relation with youth, that is the X factor. I think that is the thing trying to account for in terms of when it's introduced, and then how much of the accessibility is truly affecting the mindset of, kids. Because I think where we were at was like still trying to just find fucking dub tapes and magazines and shit. So it wasn't.
You got to sneak into the back curtain real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Paying attention just to get a side boob.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm like, we were of the Skinamax world. So
yeah,
we only now have evolved to whatever this is. How much of this is accessible to a kid that's in elementary school?
Bro, a scrambled titty on TV was amazing. You're like, half a second I saw it.
Half a second it was on the bottom screen. It was green, but it was real.
Yeah, you were looking all the way down like, that's nice. And
there's a certain level of innocence there as a boy, don't get me wrong. It's just trying to figure out how does that fit in culture, in your immediate culture.
And even that, even that is kind of fucking up some girls and boys and girls, but girls too is like, oh, I gotta get this implant and whatever, you know what I'm saying? I joke around and say that plastic surgery is an easy fix for women, while most men have to fix themselves internally to become.
That's the game we play,
right? You can get the money, right?
Yeah,
but if you still don't have a grasp of yourself, that can be effed off. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So, but and if someone gets plastic surgery, whatever, I'm just saying like it's the one is an easy fix, while another might be a longer term internal fix. And even if you fix yourself externally, it doesn't necessarily for some people fix themselves internally.
No,
it just does a quick fix of what they think they want.
It can. Yeah. I can't speak for everybody.
Yeah, it can. Yeah,
but that's why I said that why is equality is not real between men and women, only because we are not of the same stature in any way, shape, or form. That's why the equality doesn't. To be. Yeah, but that's why it's kind of like when you just mentioned that's a big difference, internally for men, externally for women, at least in culture.
Men were not designed by whatever designed us, if you believe it's evolution or not. Because if we're evolving, then maybe, women will have babies by themselves, just immaculate, But as of right now, right, we were designed as a man to insert, impregnate, get the woman pregnant, and that's the design, right? We usually, for the most part, other than weight training now, because there are women that can now outlift men that don't weight train as much. Yeah. But for the most part, men are born with more muscle than women, and that is not a bad thing. That's what makes us beautiful, and the differences,
But see, I don't think that's a majority of them. I honestly feel like maybe there's a lot of them on the fence and confused right now, but I think that's just some weird shit that they put out there. Like,
oh yeah, because
why are you putting this out there? Women I don't think women think like that.
I joke around and say, what I realized what equality was just at work and not at home. Even women that have been successful in career, I believe internally still wants the man to lead.
Of course. Yeah. I always make even that fucked up joke where it's like you see two females, one's always going to be miserable just because that's the one doing all the guy shit. Yeah. That's just how it is. It's roles. It's not necessarily like gender based, like some arguments will put out there.
It would never understand why a guy is miserable. It's like, but what do I got to do? I got to come home. I got to do this. And not even complain about it because I'm not supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the Patrice O'Neal thing.
Then I don't get the big piece of chicken.
Yeah. We have a different internal drive. Women have something else. I always say I can't speak on what they do. And I'm sometimes of the belief like, they choose sometimes, and sometimes they just fall into something. I mean, it is random. Don't get me wrong. Like, relationships are strange in general, but if you just have to create a philosophy to kind of run with, like principles and things that you kind of believe into. Okay, this is just what I believe. Because if you're in the fray and you're in a relationship, oh man, it's like who's leading the way. The female just leads you to nowhere. Like, Where are we going?
Yeah. I mean,
And you just left at the end of the road. She's like, I don't know. Okay, bye.
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
This is fifth grade all over again.
I left you. Why? Because I'm going to go over to this person who had the map and the directions where to go. You know?
But see that guy over here, like, I'm just John as I go. Like, oh man, what the fuck? What'd you show her?
But
I just showed her this.
I just showed her way. Do you know what? No, but I was confident in myself to keep going.
See, and that's man. That is the man way. It is the competition. That's kind of like why we've had those discussions with sports. Like, oh, they don't keep score because it's like that was just a part of the whole taking out competition amongst men in a lot of ways, and it kind of takes away from the natural instinct of what we have to want to compete. Where we draw emotion and it becomes something crazier, that's where we practice calming emotions and keeping your head in the game and all those principles. But as that's deconstructed, like I said, it's basic. It's like, is self-improvement, basic man versus woman, just that it's always been the case. Why have we diverged so far from it as of right now? Like we were talking about off camera, like, fluid genders, and why did it divert? How did we go from man, woman to all this stuff? And that's like a real question, because this is came on like in the last 3-4 years.
I mean, it felt like it came on strong in the last 6.
Yeah.
Like super strong.
Strong, yes.
Whereas, strong. We can't even say strong. You say strong with the C in it.
A K, yes.
Yeah, or a K, strong, like it came on strong, and it's like, and then it definitely is more, definitely more fluid in a lot of ways. Definitely seeing a lot more people transitioning, and maybe that was somewhere down the last 5 or 6 years, there's the breaking point. I feel like every so often there's a breaking point in where the floodgates open. We can say that about interracial relationships. Maybe not so much in the 60s and 70s, but maybe in the 80s it just blew up. And you saw it more often. But it's probably the same way with the fluid and lesbian transitioning culture, or our community. But yeah, it's super strong,
But that community can be big.
I mean, I don't know the numbers. I mean, I think one thing I was reading a while ago was saying that more younger people are identifying that way more as they
at the time when you don't even know what the fuck you are.
Yeah, like I said, I've stated before, no cap on anybody. I said if I could transition when I was a kid, I would have been a motherfucking Ninja Turtle.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that's not the cat. It's like
Nope, that is literally what they're saying. So therefore, that I can say that.
You really, but I'm saying like, I'm doing it as a cat, but it's like, I don't. Shit, I'm still 40 years old. Learning things and boundaries of myself. We're learning new things every day.
Yeah,
that's why even like side note, I've seen in some high school sports, there's kids having tattoos, and I'm like, fuck, I never got one because I never knew anything I wanted to keep on my body that long other than my penis. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So it's like, no, so it's crazy to see that some people know exactly at that age, and maybe it is different times. More, like I said, the phone. They're on it. They get more cues. They see more than what
social cues. Yeah,
more than what I feel like we knew. Not saying that we didn't know much. It's just that it's just accessible.
I think we were going off each other more than we were going off of a phone.
Yeah.
At least that's
and now you're going off of people. Now you're going off of people. Now, granted, we weren't just going off each other. We're also going off of what we decided as the artist or rapper that we thought was cool.
Yeah.
Right. But now that's way more accessible with even just random people looking at the stardom of people on TikTok or Instagram and just going off of the way they live. And a lot of them seem to be just a carbon copy of another person, which is fine. We've all done that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
As you're saying that, I'm thinking like that shit happened to us too. So whatever's happening to the youth now, happened to us.
But it's just more accessible.
Yes.
More options.
But they don't know that.
No, they don't know that.
See,
it's the norm, right?
That's how the new generation will be like they're going to have it they don't have to even look shit up. They could just think about it and it'll show up.
Like how many people, we had a friend in elementary school that wanted to be a Crip.
Oh, yes, I do remember this.
Remember?
Yes.
Him and his other friend were trying to be Crips or whatever, right? And it's like, okay, listen to Snoop, listen to whatever. And we were smart enough to. I mean, that person changed, but it was like we were smart enough to look at it like. That's cool and all, but that's not what we want to be.
Yeah,
because it didn't.
I don't think so. You watch the whole movie; it doesn't turn out good.
Yeah, it never really, like
not too many happy endings in those.
Like for me, like I've joked around with people who are like, "Oh, Scarface, man, blah blah blah," and sometimes I've been thinking like, people who have Scarface hung up in their room, to me, I'm like, you're dumb. Because to me, it's like, unless you're talking about the other part, most of them are doing it because of the gangster shit, right? And I'm like, but that motherfucker died at the end. Yeah. He lost every fucking thing that was important to him.
Yeah, fast life.
He was trying to come up. His girl didn't stay because what he got was a girl that wasn't there for him.
Yeah.
She just liked him for what he had, right?
Yeah.
His sister got killed. His best friend, he killed his best friend. Mm-hmm. The only thing he stood up to was not killing a kid.
There you go.
Which is cool, whatever, And then some people say you don't follow the rules, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't kill kids. I'm not a monster, right? Yeah. And then he died for that, which is fine, whatever. But he lost everything on greed and trying to do that, right? Yeah. And so a lot of people are like, yeah, Scarface. I'm like, to me, the other message is like, you go fast. You lose fast too.
Fast life, fast.
And that if you get too greedy, everything can be lost.
Or I've also heard this narrative: Scarface is that come from nothing and build up an empire.
Yeah, and so I've heard people say that, and it was just like, okay, I'll give you part of that, but you want to put that one as up where he died, off of coke.
But you know how it is. This is like how people interpret the Bible. It's like, I just take the parts I need.
Yeah. I just see it like, what I'm saying? He came from nothing, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay, but what did he do? He killed a bunch of people. He sold drugs. He had everybody. But I'm just saying he came from nothing. Fucking fix your way of thinking, bro.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
But I mean, that is often, referenced movie. But it's strange because I've heard people's takes on it, a couple of different people, not too many, but just, it is interpreted differently. And then how that matriculates to an individual. It's just strange how that is just one of the more popular examples amongst men. And they take so many different things from it. It's like, the dark passenger says, I'm trying to do all of that. But in reality, the really, coming in as an immigrant and, making your way and, telling the world, fuck you, it's me versus, there is a certain honesty there.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the movie, you're kind of like, well, clearly people trying to do all that shit too.
but it was like, okay, but like, it's funny because it's like, okay, there's other, I don't know, I can't think of another movie right now. So in fairness, I can't think of one right now. But there could have been other movies of an immigrant coming in there, establishing a business, and then becoming an empire in that business for working. But this was on doing illegal shit, and yet this is the most revered one.
Ain't no one trying to watch a movie when someone works hard and then, makes it through hard work besides like, happiness is, or no, or Pursuit of Happiness.
Secret of Marcia says a Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, ain't no one watching that. Like, ain't no one referencing that.
People love victory stories, man. Come from nothing and make it.
They do, but they don't like it as much as like Scarface.
Because people are stupid on it. Like,
it's like that now. But I agree with you. It's music, it's culture. Everybody likes violence. Everybody likes sex. Everybody, but not.
There's truth.
That's
right?
what they force
UFC
it on.
Was the other day. People like, I don't watch UFC because I'm not into it anymore. Right? But people love. It's so funny because people are like, oh my god, brutality, blah blah blah. I want to put my kids in contact sports. Usually they're not the same people, but then be out there watching UFC and loving people getting the shit kicked out of them.
I mean.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it is true.
Action movies and action games are some of the highest selling games. God of War, video game where dudes acting as guys just chopping people up.
That's
you know
a good
what I'm
point.
saying?
Yeah, that's
it's
a very popular
hey,
game.
You know what? Hey, blah blah blah. I don't represent, but I'm gonna play the shit out of this motherfucker.
But that's who we are. That's why it's like, to me, as I factor in all the things we talk about, you think about it like, man, this world is silly. It's really silly. So that's why it's like we're all walking contradictions. So that's why when we get it out and it's like we'll go hard one way and the next thing we say is literally contradicting that. It's like, dude, this is what we are. This is what we are.
Walking contradiction. You know
we're silly. We're silly people.
Like, I don't know if it was Eminem or whatever said. It's like everything's funny until it happens to you, right?
Yeah.
I'll make fun of that. And then you say something like, "Yo, motherfucker, that shit's racist as fuck, dog."
Yeah.
With tears like blah blah blah. You know,
but then that's why you look at something like, let's just say, for instance, like the Kanye situation, right? It's like everybody is on him and narratives are out there and people reporting on it. And it's because it's going to get a lot of views. Okay. So when people look at it, either people are championing what he's saying and everything that comes with it, or people are like, hate, cancel him, one or the other. It's doing at least what I think it's supposed to do, which is, separate our minds and our people to kind of feel a certain type of way. But then also to, really think about what is being said and then trying to computate that in your own mind. Because it's viral for a reason. Yeah, I don't know why.
Like, so you watched it, right? I only watched what he said, right? Mm-hmm. And then, like, there's parts where I'm just like, oh, Kanye, right? Mm-hmm. But then when I, like, everything with Kanye, you have to take a step back and remove your emotional shock from what he says and try to really break down. Because I feel that a lot of things that Kanye says off the cuff are emotional statements with not a lot of clarity. But there are things that have some truth to it,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say Hitler did great things, but under him, there were things that happened that made great products, right? And granted, if anybody feels a certain way, Volkswagen was a car company that was derived under him, right? So if you, in a weird way, indirectly, you support Hitler by driving Volkswagen, and Audi, I believe, is a subsidiary and bought off of him. I'm not going to sit there and stay woke and say you shouldn't do that. What I'm going to just say is that, sometimes he just says stuff and you're like, Kanye, your delivery is terrible, in my opinion. Your delivery is terrible. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's exactly what you're doing. But, like, there's parts where I'm like, Kanye, but I kind of, in an odd way, I kind of get what you're trying to say. There's years ago, when he talked about slavery was a choice. And I'm like, you can't sit here and tell me that slavery was a choice many years ago. Now, you could probably say number-wise, most slave plantations, the slaves outnumber their owners. So you can say, yes, anytime you enslave an animal or you put anything into a certain situation, there's been studies showing, like, an elephant put into a cage, after a while it adapts to it and knows it has to go to the cave, right? But what I believe what he was trying to say was, like, slavery, the slave mentality in today's society is a choice, but then it just depends on how it executes stuff terribly, in my opinion. Because the part where I'm like, I can get what you're kind of saying, but maybe I'm putting my own filter because I'm still trying to, as much as I get irritated by Kanye, I'm still trying to protect him in my own, I guess, bias,
I mean, you have to look at him as, human being.
Yeah.
Whether he is or not, it's up to discussion, but at least you look at him and it's like, okay, this is a guy who has an opportunity to say something. Why is he saying this? And then whatever theories go with that. But it is somebody with his opinion. He's lived a life and he's entitled to say what he says. I think it should be open for discussion in any way, shape, or form, however you want to engage. And that's it. The whole canceling thing and why that happens, I'm more of the thinking that this is a kind of a way to introduce how to curve, the way that we talk about certain things as a social thing. That's what I'm thinking.
Even when he said he loved Hitler, right? And because he said, like, he's a Christian and he said love Hitler. Well, in so many extreme forms of Christianity is to even love thy neighbor and the person who hates you. Yep. So there's a part where I'm like, well,
that is true.
In an extreme sense, there's another part where I've heard people say that, like, you know what, you tried to stab me, but guess what? I still love you.
I still love you. I forgive you. Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying I'm that same way, but I'm just saying, okay, that's the extreme side to it. So, it's just, I mean, to me, I feel like he's going through a mental breakdown, and it's obvious over time and time. And I do think it's funny how hard people are going at him. And the people, in my opinion, I don't know everything that goes on, in my opinion, and this is also partially when you get really powerful and successful, you start to filter out people who don't say no to you.
True. A lot of yes men.
Right? There's a part when I'm watching, it's like, where are his people at? Where is it going on? Because we're all laughing and giggling, and we're literally, in my opinion, just watching this person fall apart. And yet we laugh at this person.
I mean, it's entertainment,
right?
Yeah.
And yet, right? I'm not even gonna throw out cultures or whatever. And yet, a kid could shoot up a school, and you can say, "Damn, I feel bad for that kid. He must have been going through some stuff."
Strange, right?
Strange.
It is strange. That's a very interesting, contradictory situation right there.
It's like,
yeah,
I'm not, I'm not sitting there saying either side's good. I'm just. It just, to me, and once again, I'm biased. Yeah, Kanye's the reason I got into making beats, and he's upset at me when he did the Sacramento come to the Golden One, drop the mic, close it. I was sick at that time, excited to see the person that got me into making beats, and he did that, right? But there's a part of me that holds on to the old Kanye. That doesn't mean that's who he is now. That's like, I feel like ever since his mom, he's just been slowly losing it. And, it's been said that he's on meds. We don't even know sometimes, are the meds helping it or making it worse? Because sometimes I believe, too, once you become, if you're in my room, I have an energy drink right here, right? And I say that because sometimes you use certain things and you don't realize you become dependent on things. And then when you're not around it, you have no energy. It's that withdrawal moment, like I say, someone getting off of crack or drugs, and those times are sometimes the worst moments.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there.
Spitballing.
Yeah, the ball.
Who knows what we're watching here? But I mean, he is definitely getting airplay, and there's a lot of eyes, and there's a lot of headlines. But I mean, he's not new to this. He has said some things in the past that have gotten, to this level of exposure.
To say that, I laugh, and this is a contradiction, but it's funny because when he says it one way, and a certain group of people are idolizing him. Once he says it against that group, that was like, no. And I say it on both sides. He said, George Bush doesn't like black people. Black people like, that's damn right.
Yep. Now they're calling Kanye racist. It's like,
now Kanye says something like, white lives matter, which it should, and in turn, right? Yeah. Now, is it coming from a disingenuous point? I don't know. It felt that way. But now they don't, but it's not only just black, it's the opposite side. You got Republicans that didn't like him when he did that.
Yeah.
And now when he's like saying what they like, there's a microphone in his fucking face every time. Let's see. And I hate that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I hate that. This is why. Because anytime a black person agrees with a certain group of people, they put that motherfucker on the mic and then try to make that the figurehead to say, see, he gets it.
That's a good point.
I fucking hate that.
But that's a good point. I think that's how, I don't know how media ultimately works, but when you think about it that way, it feels like that.
And let me just clarify. That's any person of a group that feels that they've been disenfranchised or marginalized or whatnot. Like even if it's a woman on a male podcast, a woman just says something that might fall in line with the red pill. Men are like, see,
yeah,
this Beezy got it.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just frustrating. So I can see why some people may not want to openly talk about it.
Yeah, but see the way that people consume it, and then where do those people go to have that other, level of conversation about something like that? Because whether if it's social fodder or if it's actual something that affects that, when do people ever get that opportunity? Is that in the anonymous comment box?
I guess so.
You gonna say it?
Well, let me ask you. Did you ever feel that way? Being like, if you said something against like the Filipino culture publicly, did you ever feel that way? Like, gosh, I don't know if I want to say this or not.
No, I never really truly felt like ultimately Filipino, because it's like I don't speak the language and I'm not from there. I barely eat the food, and I never really spoke the language, so I just always kind of American. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's just me specifically. Where my ethnicity kind of started rearing its head was maybe like middle school, high school a little bit, where it's like, okay, this is this social group, that is existing, and I am of this social group.
I told you multiple times. That was the first time I realized I was black.
Yeah,
Meaning like I knew it before. I was called N-word a bunch of times in elementary, but that's when I saw the separation in the culture, where it's like, am I supposed to be hanging out with my friends I grew up with who are all this, or am I supposed to only hang out with the black kids?
See,
right?
Yeah.
But to the flip side of what you said about that, I felt that way because I've always felt, and even now sometimes I'm gonna be real, I get hesitant to say things because it's like, I've been that fucking figurehead. The moment I say something, it's like, oh, see, our black friend Marcus is smart. He understands. Like I'm speaking for me.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden I'm supposed to be represented, and now I'm either one figurehead or I'm the sellout of another.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. I feel that pain too. I'm just saying this, and then it's like I don't want to. You know what? This is a weakness. I'm opening up. I'm being vulnerable. I don't want to be that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to sit there and say this and feel like I'm being left in a culture just to showcase for another one. And sometimes it feels like in order to get approval, you have to appease the other group. And I don't want to be that. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking for me. Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, yes, I am black, but then I have mixed opinions on things. Yeah. And that's okay. And we're so divided that you can't be that way. So I no longer want to speak on it publicly. Yeah,
I get where you're coming from. I have the opinion of black people have it very interesting in America because you guys are under the microscope. You guys are in the public eye. So I think that, as you know, the way I observe it, the way I've heard it before, black people is like, why do black people gotta stand up for somebody who does some fucked up shit? But then if someone white does something, every black person, oh man, I don't know, that's just a crazy person. Yeah. But if a black person does something, it's like, well, he's black. I mean, I gotta say something. It's like, goddamn, why is it that way?
I mean, that's the question I brought up sometimes. I'm like, no, effed up is effed up.
It is.
It should be, right? And what Kanye says, right? Because there's where I'm conflicted, where I've seen some people be like, well, I mean, he said it's true, and then I'm like, well, you know, are we going to sit there and say what he said was right? Should have been said, because if it was said against a black person, would you have accepted that? And the most likely is no. So we shouldn't just say that. Is some of the stuff he might be saying is true? Probably. I don't know. I have to do my research. Mm-hmm. But when somebody says something about black people and then there's some truth to it, why are we quiet? Why are you quiet? Mm. You know? Mm. Doesn't mean it has to be right, or, you know, but it's like, I'm just saying, like, we have to hold the standard the same way, regardless of the race, you know. And although I do believe that it's more nuanced than that, though, you know, it's more deeper than just black and white. No pun intended, because there's gray areas to a lot of things that happen. But
there is.
But I just hope that you try to hold the standard. And I do remember, this is praise to my father, right? God rest his soul. When the OJ trial came out, my dad was a person in law enforcement. And that's also another difficult thing, is being a black person in law enforcement, right? But he was a black man in law enforcement, and he had said OJ was guilty. And he was one of the few people that was like, I'm not happy with this, right? And I remember at the time, I was like, my dad, what, man? He had sold it out to the game, you know? Yeah. But looking back at it, in some of the stories, is like, my dad seemed, we don't know what really happened, but as far as more information comes out, he seemed to be more correct. Yeah. You know? That's a hard thing to do, to stand your ground and say that and then be called things.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know?
Especially the climate. Yeah, that climate was...
At that time, yeah. Yeah. Like I keep joking around because I was a part of it. OJ found not guilty was like the whole black movement just won the Super Bowl. Like, you know, out there cheering, like, yo, I'm going to 7-Eleven. I'm going to get this Hennessy cheer tonight.
I mean, at that point, the way that I've heard it described, it's kind of like, you know, through jokes, obviously, it's like, whether he did it or not, it's just the fact that the system finally worked in the favor of a black person. Yeah, that's what people are celebrating.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah. And that's for the wrong person.
But this is what America is. Like, I mean, we've come to a point where we don't really, truly care about like facts and shit. Like, we don't care about all that. Yeah. We really just care about how it makes us feel. That's it. Whether it's the president, whether it's a social topic, we just want to. We're worried about how it feels. I don't know if it's true. Doesn't even have to be at this point. Just give me something that just makes me feel better.
Well, you know, the weird thing is, that's also as bad as it is as humans. It's also the beautiful part about humans, right?
It is. It's simple sometimes.
Because,
man.
like, you know, like, because music is feeling, art is feeling, and sometimes you can see it in the emotion or whatever. Yeah. You know, so it's like, that's the good and bad part. Because if we didn't have that, then we'd be just robots, in my opinion. If we're all just number fact based, then then nothing would change at that time, right?
That's the argument with, algorithms and statistics, data. It's like
it changes, man. It grows.
But it's us. If they have a data imprint on us, start to finish, day to day, then they'll curve us to be homogenous.
Definitely now you can manipulate it more.
Exactly, right?
Because you're like, okay, let's see that. And that's where somehow we come back to the circle. That's why I'm trying to rechange my algorithm on YouTube, I don't like, even though I do think that there's certain things that are probably nature facts, in this vast reality of possibilities, I don't want to believe some of this stuff anymore.
No,
and that's where I'm having the pain, though.
Yeah,
because I'm not accepting it. Now I have to deal with more of the pain, and sooner or later I'm gonna either have to get on the ship or drown with my belief.
Yeah,
maybe it will change.
Yeah,
but it might not be in my lifetime.
No. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
we don't know. I mean, like,
we don't know.
I'll be honest. I didn't know at age. What was in 2008? At age 26, I was going to see a black president.
That's true. See?
I was like, we'll be 50 by the time.
No one ever thought that was going to be a reality. Now, whatever you may believe to be true or not about any of that, all we know is now that it's in the past, it just felt good. That's all it is. Did
it feel good to you at the time?
It just did what it needed to do.
Did it feel? I'm asking.
Well, because the idea was, okay, there was a president in place for almost 8 years, right? We were at war heavily.
Economy dropped.
Yeah, it was just a bad time.
Was this kind of similar? Well, not similar, not 8 years, but the economy dropped. So
very,
like there's gonna be a change.
Very similar, yes.
Right. But I do remember, as bad as it might sound, I didn't vote. I'll be honest. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote at all.
It doesn't sound bad to me. Huh? That's fine.
I didn't vote at all because I was conflicted at the time. Because I didn't want to just vote because he was black. I wanted to really pay attention to what was going on.
True.
And I didn't want to be a hypocrite on what I believed of trying to be fair, right?
Of course.
I will, however, say that when he did get elected, that was the first time in my life I felt, shit, I can really do anything in this world.
There you go.
I might even have a slight little tear coming out. I literally felt like I was more proud of that than my 4 years in the Navy. That one time to sit there and say, oh shit, there isn't a limitation on what we can do.
Yeah. I mean, that a lot of people took it that way. And if in retrospect, however politically, people fall on that, just as the rest of the country, it's just, it felt fine. It felt like everything was fine. And that's all that really matters. At the end of the day. All the other little things, politics and all that shit are so intricate.
Damn. I'm trying to look at the 8 years he was in, and it was like, it was tough, trying to gain into a good job, trying to gain into whatever. The economy is down, people are unemployment. Oh, yeah. But it was weird because I was like, that was some of the fun employment. People called it fun employment at that time.
I mean,
and you can have it for 2 years almost.
Yeah. We're at it again now.
Granted, it was my middle age, like where you're, like,
and it's the age,
the age, because you're like, well, I'm out here trying to everything down on government money, getting drunk, and I could just, you know what, I'm gonna be responsible. I'm not gonna get drunk every day. I'm just gonna get drunk 3 days out of the weekend, which is still way too much.
Fun money,
right? Way too much. Not every day.
Not every day. No.
Just Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But I mean, there you go. That in turning point. Like, as I get older, and the approach of, what you were talking about, Kanye, like, just love and forgiveness, and it's simple. And you look at things like that, you're like, yeah, you could go down a rabbit hole. I could go down a rabbit hole with a lot of different things. But what I realize is, like, it's endless. It's endless in any pocket that you go into. So when you go day to day and you're trying to win the day, what is the ethos?
Well, it's funny you talk about endless in a way, and I don't know why I connected this. This is why I try to stay away from, like,
all the shit.
Well, conspiracy theories, because then, like, you just go down that rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden you're stuck in it, and then you don't. I'm not saying it's not true, because there's a comedian who's like, telling me you don't believe in any conspiracy theories. I don't, did you see that one?
I'm trying to think.
Well, anyway, his joke was pretty much, sum it up. He was like, I have a son. I'm in charge of one child, and I lie to that nigga all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he's like, to sit there and say the government does it. But what I'm saying is, for me, it just, I don't want to be down that area of like not believing anything, because sometimes it bogs you up on your day. It's already you have enough on your plate to get through your day, let alone hopefully the person that's reading this is secure themselves, because you also have to deal with whatever internal things you're going on with yourself, you know? For me, I'm like, it's just going to bog me down on everything. And then now I'm not just upset about my health or dating. Now I'm upset about the government, you know?
Pick your poison, almost.
Yeah, you know?
I mean, shit, there's conspiracy theories on relationships. Fucking conspiracy.
Yeah. Like, oh, they did this as separate.
Yeah, even the stuff we talk about, at some point, you could link that to, like, how did this shit happen? It's like, it's always trying to ask the next level of something that you're just flustered by or understanding or really into. It's just a certain level. And then as you get older, time is a little more, you know, limited. So you're trying to really pick and choose the shit that interests you. Or, you know, I watch sports and shit like that, and I get into those things to get me off of conspiracy theories and to get me off of like alternative thinking, just because, you know, you dig yourself in a hole.
As conspiracy theories, right? Because we joke around, I was like, well, what if the NBA is rigged?
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
WWE is, and people love it.
Oh, I love it. Like,
you know?
That's what I'm saying. I believe in everything that, I believe the NBA is strangely like that. It's just, it makes it fun for me to consume that content when I know that that's what it is. I can't say for sure, and it's never going to be proven even if it is, but that's the way I see it. That's how I enjoy the entertainment, because it's entertainment at the end of the day. I use that
really it
to
is.
get that.
It is. I do sometimes. As I take a step back, you were the one that was like, I took a step back. I was like, yeah, why are we so mad about that? If video games are designed difficult, certain levels, it's designed, but it's entertainment, we don't necessarily get mad at that. But for some reason, in competition, we want to believe that that is the realest thing ever. You know?
Yeah.
Even though, right? Even if you let's just play this conspiracy theory, right? In the competition of life, some people have a little bit more of upper hand.
Oh yeah.
Right? Okay, well that passed, but some reason in sports is like, no, it can't be, because then that will just destroy everything.
The spirit of competition.
Yeah.
And
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like are you enjoying it?
Millions of dollars. Yes, like,
yeah, you know,
is it entertaining? The veil of competition's there, sure, why not? Whatever.
Yeah, and like I said, like you said, like wrestling for the fans, I think most of them know it's not real. Enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
What they're saying is the story unfold.
It's story.
I go to Marvel movies to see the story unfold.
Yeah. That's what
most of the time the good guy is gonna win.
Yeah. And we still wait there in anticipation, not knowing what's gonna happen.
Yeah. This is what happens. Like the good guy is dominant at the beginning of something, falls into an opponent, loses to the opponent. It was like, dang, has to have a redemption story, comes back. You know, and it's like, okay, and then somehow by the flick of the booger in his nose, he wins.
Yeah. And we like that. Underdog stories. I mean, everything that we consume is, you know, of high class and low class and highly talented, underdog, and David and Goliath. It's these themes that have been implanted in the story or the game of life, and these are the themes that we're rolling with, and it's always matriculated in anything you see, and that's just entertaining.
Like David and Goliath, Jesus died for your sins, then was resurrected.
Yeah, then was resurrected. Come on, man.
And then brushed his shoulders off.
Yeah,
you know, and it was like,
come on, man.
I'm out.
When you flip it that way, and that's how I use the information, is to just suspend myself and look at everything as, you know, like kind of sideways, like, maybe, I don't know. And then just kind of, you know, whisk it away or look into it a little bit and just kind of build the reality in my mind, and how I process that ultimately affects how I act day to day. It's strange because it's similar to the religious idea where people use that doctrine as the basis for decision, and that makes total sense. Dude, religion and all that shit, it makes the most sense to me now more than ever, because in the world that what it is as of today, it's crazy. So that's why the book makes sense, because whatever it is to somebody, it's there. And as of what we know it is a book that has been circulated quite a bit, and it's been around. I get it. I get why people. It's a simple doctrine. And if you could abide by that, that it is amazing. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's even people who are devout still have a hard time.
Well,
you
yeah.
know, so it's just reality.
If you choose, kind of like what we say, you accept it or you don't. Sometimes the people who accept that this Bible or whatever religion is the truth, it wipes away any, I guess, too much filter, any confusion. You know, because sometimes, as weird as it might sound, too many options just confuses people more.
Oh yeah,
right? So sometimes being completely free, whatever that means, right, could go for some who are not secure in themselves, or maybe they are, can go down a particular path. And some people need that structure. You know, cut out everything else to get to where they need to be. And oftentimes when you hear about successful people, they cut off everything else to get to where they want to be. And those are some people, sometimes the same people who are religious, you know? It's to cut off the other things and say, well, this is what it says.
Yeah.
This is what I need. I don't need to think about anything else. This is how I get through my day.
Yeah,
you know?
there's a lot of different things
You know?
that go through out there in the internet and in the world out there. That's why I was like, oh yeah, you know, it's always a battle of yourself and trying to conquer the mind and how you navigate the world.
Yeah, it's like a racehorse, right? I've heard people say that they put the blinders up because all the other information coming in the horse would confuse them and drive them nuts. So they have to have their blinders on to focus on the thing going straight
on the task. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, just like I feel like I don't know if you're the same way. Like for me, if I'm working, I have to. The only thing that gets me sometimes focused on sometimes the job is putting the headphones on and trying to focus deadly on that. Because if I have too much, then I'll be like my own ADD. Are you the same way where you can just like focus on one thing and do it, or you have to have? Yeah,
I cannot focus. I have ADD like a motherfucker. That's why I'm very. But then what I put value in is that expression of creativity in my little quirky way, you know, whatever that may be, whether it's
which is weird because creativity is a form of focus, controlled ADD, right? You know, hear me out when I say this, right? You're like, you saw me make a beat and I stopped real quick, but what I'm doing is I'm having 16 different sounds. Then I have another sound going on, and in a way, it's a bunch of things going on, and I'm able to dabble and do it, and then but it's focused onto that to keep me driven into that. But in reality, there's a bunch of shit going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Trying to orchestrate.
But just enough for me to, in its own way, be focused. So it's a lot of sensory going on.
It's a lot of one thing, but it's this one thing I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, like, but even like cooking, right? It's like, okay, when you think about it, it's like, I got salt, pepper, whatever you put paprika.
Of course.
So, you know, it's like all these ingredients, all these other things that is kind of ADD in its own right? And you're able to focus it on this dish.
Yeah.
You know,
it is. It's trying to put something together, man, and then trying to see it through. That is in small ways. That's what cooking is. In small ways, is beats. Because, I could safely assume people who make music have a lot of stuff, just a lot.
Yeah.
Whether it's released, not released, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever. Right? Why is that? I'm assuming it's because whatever it is that keeps you making it. It's like, it's a feeling. It's truly a feeling. Like I told you before, I think with music, it's kind of just reaching out there. Don't know it's there. I'm just going for it. And that's addicting because you are, kind of trying for something. You're working and tinkering with something to the point where it hits something in you. Hey, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then you find that in something that you can do. That's why I'm kind of on board with that, creation is, everything, creativity, just because that's what we are. In, the way that we're composed in a lot of ways is just a creation. And then and you do that in your own way to continue on that idea. Without it, then we become not that. It's, without thought, without creating, without anything, you're just, like a homogenous robot that doesn't do any kind of thing.
I'm a technician. I have no feelings. I just go to work and
I think,
type in a database and go home. I may take two shits a day.
At this time, I watch this thing.
Then
I think that's everything in the internet is like what TV was back then, is trying to put you in a box.
Less filter.
Or what is your, okay, we could even, if you think you're unique, we know what kind of uniqueness you are. You're like, no, you don't know unique.
Like you said, we're all archetypes, right? Like I thought I was unique until I saw another dude in a Scion years ago.
Yeah.
With a Kango hat, and he was black. I was like, oh, shit. I'm the same as this motherfucker.
Yeah.
I bet he likes Tribe Called Quest, too.
See? And there you go. And then it makes you want to continue to search and dig and rewire and tinker.
Yeah.
I think that's the plight.
You want to be special, and then you realize you're not.
You're not.
You're not. You are special.
You are.
It's you, but you're not special.
But we're all the same, too.
Yeah.
So it's like, fuck, you got to deal with that as a human being. You're never going to be that, but you are that.
There are a few people who are actually truly special, even within the same, and I'm saying that to LeBron, right? Mm-hmm. At that time, he's special. Now you have Luka Doncic, is kind of similar. Now you got offshoots of him, let's say Giannis, who's now mobile big man. Mm-hmm. But that's because he was special at that time. Yep. And then even if you say he was special, then you had this guy called Magic Johnson, who just wasn't as athletic as him. What was special, So it's just
everybody's special in their own way.
Yeah,
How do you fully express yourself in your life? That's, I think, one of those things that you try to find in the journey, and you may never get there. But then, as you're trying, then life unfolds.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is probably a podcast that's going to be split up in 3, huh?
Maybe. Who knows?
The continuation.
Hey, who knows? Yeah. It's just deep, man. That's all I'm saying. It's just it's crazy.
I don't even think we touched everything else. We kind of, maybe we did, because we talked about Kanye.
We talked about some things. This is how the conversations go.
Yeah, we just go all over the place. This is usually me offshoot going all over.
No, but this is conversations like this are, to me, this is how I talk to people better, become a better listener, try to just think about what other people are saying, and then try to have a conversation within that. I think a lot of the things we talked about are significant. Like you said, you work on yourself, I work on myself. I'm assuming a lot of people do this, and that's trying to find the spiritual side, trying to live sky high. That's really what it is. It's a saying, but in my head I'm like, it's like those standards that we talked about early on, just basketball things, like habits. You try to create and try to change those things sometimes and keep certain things, and you just go along, and like I say, always work on your avatar. The game keeps going.
I was asked today, if I was to die, what would be my biggest regret, or if you're on your death table. And as of right now, I would probably say, when you talked about working on yourself, I'd probably say if this was an issue still in the time, my biggest regret was that I was never comfortable with myself. If that's the case, whenever that happens, at this moment, in this particular time, if there's a regret that I would have in this life, would be that I was never comfortable with myself yet. I say that yet now.
Yeah.
So but that's the whole thing of working on yourself, to just be like, this is who I am. I'm ugly, beautifully made. And not to sit there and say I'm ugly. I'm just saying we have unique ugliness to us, but but we're beauty at the same time.
Of who we are is very unique. Because if you consider we are human, you are all the people that in your life are human, and then the differences of everybody, both physically, internally, spiritually, you're like, this is unique snowflake stuff.
We literally are almost all things, but yet nothing, right?
Yes,
we're energy.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
We're fluid. We're because we have
gender.
Our body,
yes.
right?
Yes.
No, I'm just with the fluid in our body, with water, right?
Yes.
We're solid. We're a spirit.
We're all things.
We're the wind.
Yeah, man. But that is spirituality. I think is trying to find true self, trying to find self-awareness, trying to, I don't know, that's some woo-woo shit, but I'm like, this is this version of the game where, physically, like I always say, it's like we're not at our physical peaks, but the longevity at this age going forward is going to be a lot more, commitment to do that, and then trying to really find the mind, man.
I always like that as far as the overall spirituality, even though it's easy to say that in English terms, right? Because you can make things up. But I remember years ago when I was in the Navy, someone said, "We are Allah," and I was like, "What do you mean?" and it's like the arm, the leg, the arm, the head, right? Which spells out Allah, right? And I'm like, oh snap, and it's really deep. And then it's like, well, that's an English-based word based off of, I don't know if it's Farsi or Muslim-based, but I was like, when I remember hearing that, it's like, oh, so we are all God-like creatures. Not to sit there, we're not God, but if you're a descendant of God, you all have the energy. We have all the energy to create. We have almost everything in us already, right? Meaning like we have the ability to create. We have the ability to express energy. Yes, sometimes we might need to have food to help us give energy, right? We're fluid. We're this. You're a solid. We're a spirit. It's like it's really kind of fascinating.
It's trippy.
Even if that's more of a later term that someone could say they made up, whatever. It's a fairly good one to look at, though.
Yeah, man.
Random. I know, random.
Nah, dude, I'm about that, man. Hey, this is Sky High. Thank you, Marcus, for your time, bro. I'm gonna, it is getting late, but
I know you got a family to go to.
No, yeah, you good. You got anything you got to plug? Anything new music?
No plugs right now. No plugs. No,
okay.
No butt plugs right now. Not at all.
Okay. No problem, man. Thank you for the time, bro. This is always fun, man. This is always great. We're gonna talk some shit off the mic.
For sure.
Sky High, Naksu Cow.
Yep.
We'll get it back.